can proceed with questions. Anyone ready?
One thing, maybe I missed part of it, but the tax cuts, would you come with me?
Sorry?
Companies are getting subsidies for, and what exactly was the criteria for a company to get a subsidy?
Well, you mean?
You're talking about specifically oil companies?
No, I'm specifically talking about, you know, just say corn or soybean growers.
I mean, there's a motivation, something has an agenda, right? Some kind.
Is the subsidy supposed to be a motivation?
Just to encourage companies to do something, or is that really?
You know what? I think the whole thing is really messed up, so I'm not really sure what it's supposed to motivate. But personally, I think it's supposed to make the companies more money, not the farmers. I mean, think about if I'm a chemical company and I produce, okay, if you take corn specifically, you can turn corn into, let's say, at least 100 different chemicals. Anywhere from, I mentioned high fructose corn syrup, or caramel color, or flavorings, or preservatives and stuff like that. If I'm the owner of a chemical company and I create products for 1,000 other food company, or not 1,000 food companies, but a number of food companies that create 1,000 different food products, I need that corn coming in as fast as possible and as much as possible, to the tune of 300 to 500 extra calories for every man, woman, and child in the United States. We're talking about a huge, huge amount of corn that's going into mostly, I would say mostly high fructose corn syrup. I mean, just as a percentage, and then that's not just consumed inside the United States. That's sent all over the world in the form of McDonald's food and Coca-Cola.
The whole subsidy thing, though, I think is coming under law. I mean, because of the WTO and protectionism and how countries subsidize is really coming under scrutiny. And you mentioned that milk was more expensive than gas, but milk is heavily subsidized in the U.S. And
sure,
part of that reason was to make sure that all children got milk. But the other weird thing is, like, the Japanese whaling industry is also subsidized because they actually don't sell enough whale meat.
So just to encourage.
Well, it's to keep an industry alive. It's to keep jobs, you know, that would otherwise just go under. So it's an artificial construct, and you hear all this stuff about free market capitalism, but underneath it, you know, you've got all these subsidies that are keeping things alive, whether they should be or not. I mean, French farmers are heavily subsidized, and they get critiqued for that. So it's.
I know the oil and gas industry, there's massive, like for exploration companies, there's huge subsidies. Just to say that I'm going to go out and look for gas, you know, get a geologist, and you're out there looking for underground exploration, inside, whatever you get, like pretty much the government in Canada, anyways, will like 50% subsidies on just exploration. And they're saying it's to encourage, obviously, companies to keep mining for fuel.
Right. But specifically, if we're talking about food, and it can go into different areas, but you're thinking like the people who are benefiting are not the small farmers, right? I mean, as a small farmer, I can't even necessarily grow enough of any of that to really benefit from the subsidy. You're talking about a giant 10,000 acre farm that's probably, you know, could be immigrants working the fields, or machines working the fields, you know, one tractor driver or a crew of tractor drivers, and that's about it, and a few people flying planes and dropping pesticides and things like that, and then having groups of people coming in to pick it. It's not like the food subsidies are directly creating a lot of people making good wages.
I think one of the unfortunate things about subsidies is that poor people and the small farmers, they don't need incentive to work hard because they have to work hard. It's the people with money. And a lot of times the government subsidies are trying to direct the money
Absolutely. I mean, it's not like every penny of the dollar of the food subsidy goes directly into the pocket of the rich person, but indirectly it eventually does, for the most part.
There's a sort of a Cold War artifact, I think, also, in that the government wants to protect domestic food sources, because there's the fear that if you do it completely free market, then our local farmers would be outcompeted, and then to the point where people are not going to grow, there aren't going to be farmers in the U.S., and then we don't control our own. Sorry to say we, but whatever country, you're not controlling your own food production, and then you're vulnerable to having it cut off. So I think that's another sort of subsidy.
Yeah, the whole issue is extremely complicated when you talk about free trade regions and okay, we'll buy your computers as long as you buy our meat or something like that. I mean, personally, I would like to see a lot more discussion on, trying to shut down some of this trade. I mean, it's not, I can't see that it's necessarily benefiting me. I mean, okay, maybe beef is cheaper in Taiwan, and maybe computers are cheaper in the United States specifically because of that, but I don't think I'm getting the
farmers
benefit.
all over the world were against a lot of the WTO. I mean, we can call in Taiwan, they were very much against when it was going in, and I recognize in Taiwan, like so many countries, has gone from being an exporter of food to being an importer of food. So in terms of food independence, it's like, who is actually exporting food? Everybody's importing food now.
Yeah. The United States is a net importer of food, which
but it
blows
also
my
supplies
mind.
half the world of wheat and corn too.
Right.
I mean, it's a huge export.
It seems like a huge waste of. I mean, the only way you can that kind of stuff can be afforded is if you have these huge subsidies
and invested
and
interest.
trade pacts and stuff like that. I mean, wait a second. The United States is big enough to grow all its own food, but we export a lot of our food, so we have to import a lot of our food. Why?
Well, because the economy of production is, like you are better off producing what you can produce the most or the cheapest, and the rest you just import.
Yeah, but there's not a whole lot that the United States can't produce itself. I mean, maybe coffee, olives. We do grow our own olives. What can the United States not make? Some tropical fruit.
The thinking behind a country's growth, whatever they decide to produce, it's not a collective thought process. It's an individual company with money.
Right,
And be encouraged by the government as well. But it's not like they're saying, let's grow this, and this, and this, and this.
Right, it's the Beef Growers Association, the Cotton Growers Association, going into Washington, D.C. and saying, hey, we'll give you a bunch of money as long as you make sure that we can export our cotton or soy
trade deficits. I mean, if some other country is buying beef, we have to buy something from that country. I mean, so the food export is not a question of whether you can supply or not. It's that you want that country to be buying certain things from you, so that's the trade-off.
Yeah, I just don't understand why we want other countries to buy stuff from us.
Because it's an open economy. If you don't do it, you just have to close your market, and then you just make some kind of bulk, and you say that no economy in the world can survive something like that.
Well,
you could shoot like we have experience from the Eastern Europe. Once they tried to close everything in this like Soviet and the Soviet influenced area, and eventually everything just broke down. You can do that like that. It's very idealistic. Say, okay, we can supply ourselves. Now won't be these bad companies, sucking our blood. But it's not exactly like that. I don't know how it's in States, but for example, in European Union, you have all those support for like farmers and so on, and actually it's pretty beneficial for the people, but because the money you get directly, the farmer gets the money. There's no any company, you know, in the middle. You just get the money. So and you know, if you want to sustain your country going for a longer period of time, you have to take care of the basic, you know, need, which is the need of food. And you can put the food on the totally free market, because as we know from this like currency, recent the rumor about the currency and all this speculation, you can do it with currency, okay? Because you just, okay, they broke down, but maybe those guys can support you, so now dollar is down, then we'll make a euro high. But once you destroy, you know, this like this like farmers and and they were providing you food, you can restore it like that. Because one day, can you imagine, as you said, like, okay, the city without the food. Try to imagine that in Taiwan you don't have a food for 3 days. No, I'm not telling for a month, for 3 days. What's gonna happen? You still need, it's not maybe perfect, but you still need to have some kind of policy, you know, and that's some kind of like, especially like in Europe, what I observe in Europe is some kind of tool, you know, some kind of mean to keep it going on. Maybe it's not perfect and there are many, you know, many
But you see the problem with Europe, with the whole Spanish cucumber problem, that this problem in Germany, they can't figure out because they don't know where things are coming from anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is another problem, because, you know, there was one person, and she's German, you know, and she's responsible for this entire policy, and the cucumbers were from Spain, and she said, of course, everything's because of Spanish cucumber, and after a week they found out, no, cucumber is innocent. They didn't do anything, sorry, she was wrong. So the problem is not about this policy that we should be like, you know, support this entire industry, you know, or not, but it's the problem how you do that. You know, because anyway, they still need some kind of policy, you know, to keep it going on, especially like in Europe, you have many countries, they have like separate governments, but in the end they still want to have like a common policy.
Well, they have a common market, you know, everything gets...
Yeah, of course, but this is so, but you can put food on the totally free market, because, you know, this one speculation and someone gets a lot of money, but the entire industry falls down. And what can you do then? It's not like currency, okay, today we lost $5 million, right? But in next week, because we bought lots of euro, we can sell the euro and we can get the money back, we can another speculation. But once you just, you know, drive all those guys to the bankruptcy, you know, they can't just restore entire process in one day. Say, okay, in 1 week, boom, let's do it, you know. Because I personally live in countryside, so I know the problems, you know, that they faced before, you know. And the problem is that how the subsidies, you know, are distributed. Because, you know, that for example, like, you know, in the new countries, they will get like, we started from the half of the subsidy the Western Europe countries got, you know, and now just coming closer to the 100%. So this is the problem, you know, that's how much you get, if you get enough money. Because if you get 50%, the guy from Spain gets, you get 50 euro, the guy from Spain gets 100. Of course, you can compete with the guy, right? Because you get on the market and you're losing. Of course, but it's still some kind of policy, and they have to figure out what to do. And it's not exactly like, as you said, that there are like big companies, you know, and just taking. Actually, all those farmers are benefiting a lot, even more than they should. More than they should.
Who?
Farmers.
The small farmers.
We can't afford the small farmers. You can't afford.
That are constantly going out of business.
No. Of course, you can't afford the small farmers. Because small farmers.
So it's only supporting the larger farmers.
There is some kind of there are some kind of like requirements. Because you because you can support a farmer who produces enough food only for himself.
Well, wait, that's a garden. If you're talking about a farm, that should be able to support a lot more than a single person.
Yes, so then they support it. They just get money, because you don't know how small the farmer can be. You know, if you have like 2 hectares, you know, I don't know if you can use this hectare, you know, that you need. You have 2 hectares, and there were like lots of that kind of farmers in Poland, you know, and all these Eastern Europe countries. So then the European will just put lots of efforts, actually, just give them another options and to sell the land to someone else, and they just got a lot of support, you know, just to get some qualification in other professions and something, because it's impossible to support everybody as long as you produce, you know, the food for yourself and maybe for your neighbor. So then, of course, this is, you know, free economy. You also still have to consider, you know.
Well, it sounds pretty horrible to me.
No, it's not horrible. It's reality. You can't. No,
reality sounds pretty horrible.
No. You are talking about very idealistic, you know, idea. Like you are very idealistic, but as a matter of fact, because you don't. I mean, lots of people rely on CNN and all that bullshit. I'm sorry for the word, but it was another, like I remember, was about the Olympics in Beijing, you know, and they just destroyed all those hutong. And the CNN said, yeah, the bad communist is destroying lots of years of cultures. And what happened actually, what CNN didn't show, you know, that when some people went there, especially like idealistic Americans, as we are protecting, you know, culture or something, those people from there just beat them. Why? Because they destroyed my hutong, but they gave me nice house somewhere there. And then people came, so they were so scared, like, oh no, if they don't take my hutong, I won't get a nice house, you know. That is the same, you know, what happened, for example, for the just little farmers.
What is hutong? Sorry, what is hutong?
Hutong is
Traditional neighborhood.
traditional, yeah, especially in the north of China, you know.
Yeah, but with that logic, you can just go to any third world country and treat people, you know.
Yeah, but you know that's
not justification that actually.
But they were happy.
Was good.
They were happy.
Yes, of course, because they got two instead of one.
But they get something better.
Yes, but that does not mean that the culture is not being destroyed.
But they just made a part of it. They didn't destroy everything, you know. They was just like a certain area, and actually houtons are really disgusting if you go there and you go like.
So wait.
My point is that this is an example. You know, the point is that these little farmers you want to protect. Actually, they benefited a lot because if you have like 2 hectares of land and then you agree to, for example, sell that land or just to give it to someone who has more, you know, more land, then they got some kind of support. For example, you get certain amount of money, you know, to maybe start your own little business. And of course, it doesn't fit some kind of, you know, view that there are bad companies and there are little farmers we have to protect with all means possible. But the people benefited because they were poor anyway, and actually they helped them a lot to improve their lives. It's not always like that, because people are traditional and people didn't want to do it, they wanted to stay there or something, but that's the, you know, modern world.
Do you think it would be smart to grow monocultures of food that are very open to pests and drought and things like that, or would it be better to grow a larger variety of things?
Of course, you need variety of things, but
well, because the larger the farms get, and the fewer small farmers that you have, the more monocultures of food that you have.
What do you mean? It's more small.
Well, come on. Yeah, come on.
But he's talking about small farms. That's exactly
what
he's
I'm talking
about.
I'm talking about small farms, you know. And if you get the bigger farms, okay, they are, you know, for example, they are specialized in certain areas, so they are just doing this or that. And then it allows them to survive in the contemporary world, you know, and they live pretty good lives. In Eastern Europe is still not that good, but if you go, for example, I was born in a communist country, you know, I grew up there and so on, and then it became democracy, which wasn't very good, not that nice as we see. But, you know, in the end, you go, for example, to Holland, and those people benefit a lot from this support. And see what's there. People living in nice lives.
Okay.
I guess there could be also a big difference between European Union and the States.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe, I don't know.
We should know better the policies and the differences between one and the other.
And also in Eastern Europe too, because you had to deal with communism first, which destroyed a certain kind of traditional farm to a certain extent, and then
Yeah, sure. But this is, you know, the different model. You know, there's like subsidy is not that bad. It's not that bad. You have to ask people first, you know. This is not like, okay, we say this is bad, this is good.
There's an argument though about the subsidies though, that they're sort of, they have a specific focus on a kind of particular ideology, like, you know, like we're we're subsidizing the kind of the grain industry, you know, because it's kind of like the staple food industry, and there's also, you know, some other kind of chemical byproducts we can get, but, you know, maybe they're, you know, that it's sort of a selected ideology. I mean, they could also be subsidizing, say, I don't know, say, whatever, berries. Well, I'm not in favor of organic, I'm sorry, but, for a lot of reasons, but like, I don't know, berries or, you know, basically there's kind of an ideology behind what they select for the subsidies that's kind of, you know, political, and seems like the what do you call it, the types of food that are subsidized, you know, they have a very powerful political lobby, and they kind of...
Yeah, for example, French. You know that in the European Union, the snail is a fish already. Last year, the snail became a fish. Why? Because in this way, the French farmers who are just, you know, having these snails, of course French people can live without snails, you know, they got subsidy. Because they can subsidy, you know, the shellfish, but they can subsidy fish. So then they turn the snail into a fish. And it's really, they got money. No, but this is reality, and we are laughing all over the country, but that's true. That's what they did.
Yeah.
So actually, they support the local, you know, local market, local producers, you know, and local culture of, you know, like a food culture, you know, because French says no, we need a support, you know, we need the money for that, you know. And they just turn the snail into a fish. It's like a normal fish.
There's another thing to consider there, though. Sometimes I can't remember exactly how the quote goes, but that basically whatever is efficient is actually ultimately what is environmentally the most friendly. And sometimes we have the trappings of environmentalism without maximizing the efficiency. And so, like, for example, in Great Britain, you know, you have people complaining about importing lamb products from New Zealand. But then, like, if you actually crunch the numbers and work out sort of the carbon footprint of each, it's actually more efficient to import lamb products from New Zealand, even including the shipping and everything else, than to raise those animals in Britain just because of the energy efficiency. Yeah, right.
Do you mean cost effective when you say efficient?
I mean as far
And also
as
energy, I mean,
yeah,
environmental efficient, yeah.
yeah.
So it costs less money to import the meat from New Zealand than it does to produce it in England.
Right.
So wait, so the cost of production of an oil tanker, is that figured in?
Figured in,
Yes,
it
yes.
is, yeah, in terms of the
Because the
quantity
cost
of
of land-
apples and things that.
Cost of land in Britain is way higher than in New Zealand.
Because and the oil tanker is a reusable item, whereas the actual
So
product.
when we're talking about the real cost of the food, or you're
Yes.
talking about a heavily subsidized cost of the food?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, so if we're talking about the real price, it should be $50 for a kilogram of lamb, and it should be bought right in Britain.
But the reason
Why would
is
you even think about importing lamb?
because of the conditions in New Zealand are different from those in Britain. The animals can graze all year round. And so it's just inherently more efficient to raise lambs in an animal where it's more suitable for them to be, or sheep to be raised, you know, in that area.
So wait, now imagine if oil is $500 a barrel, would it still be as efficient to?
No, probably not. I mean, it all depends on,
All
you
those
know, very
factors.
specific factors. But just taken, I mean, the study that I read, I forget, I think it was 2007 or something, but at that time, it was something like 6 times the carbon footprint to be raising sheep in Britain and buying them there than it was.
So wait, how could you have a higher carbon footprint if
Because of
it's
the
an
energy.
animal?
Because of the energy.
What energy do you expend to just an animal eating
Because
grass?
they need to be they need to be fed feed. There isn't enough, they can't be pastured all year round, and so they need to be fed feed that needs to be grown.
Or imported from someplace.
Yeah, or imported. It's just inherently less efficient to raise those sheep, in Britain, because it's just a less suitable environment for them to be raised. And so there's just a it's kind of the same thing with tomatoes. Like they were talking about greenhouse growing tomatoes in Britain versus ones grown conventionally in Kenya.
So wait, now imagine if the feed for the lambs was subsidized instead of the oil. Would that change things?
Probably is being subsidized.
But you have to bring it from somewhere, especially like you mentioned Britain, this island, there are how many people are there? I don't know. I can figure out how many people.
60 million.
60 million. How many people is in New Zealand? 4. And they are not. It's not. Britain is not bigger than New Zealand. And so of course there's the grass is for free. And in Britain now, because you have much more people, way more people living there, and so the cost of the land, you have to consider one thing, the cost of the land, because if, for example, if I put a huge building here, there is the cost of the land. If I can put a building here, I make a financial center, I don't support it, I don't like it, okay, I agree, it's not very nice, but because of the cost of this land, is rising up, right? So you can earn. Using this area, you can earn how much money you can earn, right? And you just make it, just give it to the sheep. How much can you make, right? So that's the open world, I can make more money here.
I think, the food industry is basically driven by the economy. Do you agree with that? And the economy does not support everyone, for sure. It's a very basic way of thinking. So, when you say some farmers are being taken care of, the way the food industry, what they decide to produce and where they decide to produce it is driven by the most cost-effective location, like proximity to the market, and everything else. So it's a very calculated. There are elements of the food industry that are leaving us out in the cold, I think, in some ways. Because you think about what is supply and demand. We're the buyers. But they're not producing based on our wants solely.
I wouldn't agree with that.
I'm really sorry, but we're out of time. We need to move upstairs. I'm really sorry. It's past 9 already. Yeah. We've got to charge the tickets after in 5 minutes. Thank you very much for coming.